So no, I haven't heard the story about the two lumberjacks. What is that?
All right, so there's these two lumberjacks and they work in the exact same forest.
Okay.
And every day they get up at the same exact time, they show up at the same exact time, they chop wood, they end at the exact same time. Yet one lumberjack consistently beats the other. And so at some point, this lumberjack who just can't seem to figure out why he can't cut it the same amount of wood as the other lumberjack. He gets up enough courage to ask him. And he says, "All right, I got to ask you a question. You and I, we do the exact same thing. We start at the same time every day. We end at the same time every day. I can't cut nearly as much wood as you. And I watch you leave for lunch an hour every day at lunchtime. Where is it that you go?" And he said, "Oh, well, that's real simple. I go home and I sharpen my axe."
Mm.
And it just got me thinking about all the different ways that, sometimes we work and work and work and we do the exact same thing and we expect maybe a different outcome.
Mm. Yeah, that just made me think of you know, there's three ways to get wealthy that I know of. And I think only these three. I don't know of a fourth. So number one, inherit. All right, mom was rich, dad was rich, uncle was rich, granddaddy was rich, like whatever. I can't speak for you. For me, that
It's
didn't work
definitely
out.
not the case.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well.
Nope.
I inherited values. I
Work
inherited
ethic.
love, right? I
Mm-hmm.
inherited how to be a good parent, good husband, from my
Mm-hmm.
father. But as far as like a bank statement, no.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, literally not a dollar, like not one. Which
Same.
awesome. They slid into home base, and it was like bank account went to zero that week. Awesome, right? That's how I'd want it to be. Number two would be to invent something. Like Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Elon, I don't know if you could say invented, but the electric car, SpaceX, right? He's an inventor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The third way is to invest. So inherit, I have no control over that one. Invent takes a very, very special skill, which frankly I don't have for me. Invest. Now that I can do. On the investing, there's really two kinds of investing. So one would be I take my 25%. If I make whatever, somebody makes $100,000 for the year, you take 25% of that and you invest it in the S&P 500 and you do that for 20 years, you'll be wealthy, guaranteed, right? Or like your lumberjack, you can invest in an axe sharpener. You can invest in how to cut 30% more trees in the same amount of time. And so invest can either be investing my money or investing in my skill set, hire a mentor, hire the number one lady or guy that cuts trees down. How do you cut more trees down than me? Right. And that'd be an investment. So that's what that is so in his case, he invested in a sharpener and he
Mm-hmm.
goes and sharpens the axe at during lunchtime and you sharpen your axe, you're going to cut down more trees. So I like that story.
Yeah, I know. I heard it and I was like, this is a Carl story. I know Carl can
Yeah.
use this somewhere.
No, you know it's a Kristen story, and you just did it. I like that. So what's some other ways to invest? So invest our money, save the 25%, and put it neither one of us financial planners. Tell people, go do your own research. But for me, uh, S&P 500, like
Mm-hmm.
VOO. Hey, there's another thing I invest in. We can talk about this for a few minutes.
Okay.
There's another thing I invest in. So actually, there's three things I invest in. Uh, S&P 500, which is VOO, which has averaged 10.7% per year since inception, whatever, 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
After inflation, 7%.
Do you know I used to work at Vanguard?
I did not know that.
I did. I worked, my husband still works there. He's going on like 27 years, I think. But yeah, that's where we met. I worked there for 9 years.
Did not
And
know that.
my seventh or eighth year there, I won something called an award for excellence. They hand out four a year across all the employees. So
Oh,
anyway, it was like a peer nominated thing. I won this award for excellence. And one of the things with the award for excellence at the time, Jack Bogle was still alive and he would come into the office every day and I got to have lunch with him. Just he
wow.
and
Well,
I.
so you being one of four does not surprise me. But it does not surprise me. I didn't know. So that's very interesting. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So did you invest some of your money with that like
Oh my
did
God.
you
Yeah, everything. Matter of fact, well, Vanguard, they match, they have a company match. I believe it's 6%. No, it's 5%. You
they
can,
match 5%? So if you do five, they do five for a total of 10?
yes,
That's epic. Epic.
and they have a profit sharing. So every year they invest
Wow.
10% of your salary into a
Wow.
profit sharing. Yeah. So talk about like that's
Holy cow.
even having not having worked there now for as many years as I have, I contributed for those 9 years that I was there. And so you compound that and look at it now. And now I have it in an actively managed fund. So it's like based on my retirement age,
Yeah, yeah. You
you
know,
know,
I'm not the
but
biggest fan of those.
Brian's watching it. I don't, he watches it. Like
Yeah.
I think,
And,
yeah,
and,
but
and,
the majority of it is in the S&P.
and certainly you guys are going to know more about that than I am.
Well, not
Okay.
me anymore. He does.
Well,
I
yeah,
used
but
to.
and I'm not saying that just to be nice. I'm saying it because it's incredibly likely to be true. So anyway, so the three things that I invest in and that I think is age appropriate. So if I was if I and no, this is not advice for anybody because we're not qualified. I'm not qualified to give advice. But if I tell you what I tell my kids, if I'm 50 or younger, I'm gonna put it all in VOO.
Mhm.
Period. That's not true. If I was sub 40, I would also put it in QQQ,
That's
which
Fidelities, right?
yeah, which
Mhm.
is the Nasdaq, which is tech heavy. And so like Pepsi Cola, it's in the S&P 500, which VOO, but Pepsi's not in QQQ. That if for somebody's brand new, VOO and QQQ, these are they're ETFs, exchange traded funds, and basically they're like mutual funds
Mhm.
where the S&P like VOO owns 500 companies.
Yeah, so
This
it's
is an
diversified.
oversimplification, but when I put in $500, they do $1 of Pepsi, dollar of Walmart, dollar of Costco, dollar of Ford, dollar of Tesla, dollar of insert in, 500 biggest companies. It's not actually true because how they actually do it, if the company like Tesla, I think is something like 3 or 4%, or not Tesla, Nvidia, I think right now is like 4 or 5% of the S&P 500, and you take whatever company is in 500th place, they might only get a quarter from that $500, where Nvidia might get $5 of that. They're
Mhm.
overrepresented, or even 20 or $25 of the 500. But anyway, so I do. So if I was under 40, I'd go tech heavy and I'd put some, maybe an approaching half into QQQ, which very likely will outpace the S&P 500, the tech, because these tech companies, all these AI companies, are what's driving the S&P 500 right now. They're definitely leading the charge. And but boy, it has some swings, and so you have to be able to stomach the
Mhm.
swings. And if I was under
Yeah.
40, I could stomach the swings.
That's why
Uh,
we're in a target retirement account now.
yeah. So
So
the
that
other one I do, if I was in my 50s or 60s or 70s, I would do. Well, I'll tell you what I do. So I'm in my 60s and I've got about 10% into QQQ because I got enough that if I lost it all, I'd miss it, but I wouldn't
Mhm.
miss it. I'd
Mhm.
miss it, but I wouldn't miss it, right? So I can gamble a little bit, 10%. I can gamble with 10%. So I got 10% into QQQ. I've got, and I'm working toward this because I started with zero. I got about 30% into SCHD, which is a Schwab high dividend ETF. And
Okay.
so when I put it into SCHD, it pays 3.25% dividends. So number one, it grows like the S&P 500, not quite as good. Like the S&P 500's averaged 10.7. I think SCHD has averaged 9, but it
Decent
spins
for
off
dividends.
3.25% dividends. And for our listeners, dividends is I don't have to sell any of this stock. They just pay me 3.5% per year because they have profit and it's profit sharing. So I don't have to sell any of my shares. I just get 3.25%. You go, well, what? 3.25% is not that much. Well, it can be. That if you've got, X amount, you save your 25% over a period of time. We're talking millions now, and
Hmm.
you get a couple $1 million of SCHD paying 3.25%. You get $70,000 of passive income without selling anything. And oh, by the way, it's taxed at long-term capital gains, which for most people is going to be about 10%. So instead of getting taxed at 30%, like the federal income tax, you only get taxed at 10%. And I don't have to sell anything. And so I could live off of that. And when I go to greener pastures, I left a nice gift to my kids or my grandkids or my great great grandkids.
Hmm.
And so I like the VOO primarily for the growth. And then as I get older, start buying SCHD because you don't want SCHD, frankly, when you're your age, Kristen. So somebody that's younger, right? Uh, because the dividends are paid out whether you need it or not, and you can reinvest it. But when they pay out that $70,000 a year, and
It's
most of
taxable income.
it's taxable income. You go, well, wait a minute, I don't need it because I'm still working.
Hmm.
Well, you're still getting it. Yeah, but can I reinvest it? You can, but you still have to pay tax on it,
Yeah.
even though you're reinvesting it. Hey there. Hey, if you're loving the tips so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button right down there and then tap the little bell so that you never miss out on more free, cool tips coming your way. Also, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment beneath there. Let me know what you think or tell me what you'd like to hear next. And so when you get about my age and it's like thinking, all right, well, I might not be working for another 20 years, right? Maybe, but maybe not. That I've got this income now set up
Hmm.
that it's taxed at a lower rate, and I'm eating the eggs, not the goose. So my goose keeps laying, because if I eat my goose, well, I don't get any eggs either. And eventually I'm gonna run out of goose. Whereas I'm just spending the dividend money. So I've got the VOO for the growth and I've got the SCHD, the high dividend funds for the income. And so now I've balanced growth to keep up with inflation and income without having to sell anything. And then QQQ to put, I think at QQQ a little bit of, which is the high tech, high growth, high risk. To me, that's kind of like, every now and then I go to Vegas and just put it on red.
Hmm.
Just put on red and spin the thing, and maybe we win and maybe we lose. But if I win, awesome. If I lose, I'm not having to sell my watch to get a ticket to come back home. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I wouldn't put too much in there. So anyway, that may or may not be of any interest to anybody whatsoever. But I tell you what, I wish I'd have known that 40 years ago.
Hmm.
I, God, so yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I wish I'd have known that 40 years ago or even 30 years ago. So I really got aggressive with this stuff probably in the last 25 or so. So we were saving. We did well, right? We did okay, like anybody else. We were doing okay. But boy, I look at how much the S&P 500 has outpaced. But I have to tell you, Kristen, we wouldn't have had anything to invest had I not invested in myself
Hmm.
to learn my craft and hang out with people that were doing better than me and not a little better, significantly better, and taught me how do you close. I think my best year, we averaged 52 closings a month. So hanging out with somebody that did that and show me how to do it. I remember I signed up for coaching where it's more of a consulting thing, really. $5,000 a month. And all my friends thought I was crazy.
How far along in the business were you when you did that?
I probably started writing him a check around '08. So I got in the business 2000, I like very end of 1999. So I just think 2000. So it's easier to keep track of. So we're
Yeah.
in 2026. I've been doing this like 26 years. So around '08, '09, I started sending this guy money.
How'd
So
you find this guy?
a video on the web. Yeah, a video on the web. Sure did. And he's the guy that I wrote a check to because he was making at the time $2 million a year. And at the time, that was a huge, it's still a lot of money. But at
Hmm.
that time in my life, it was unimaginable. Like in my vision, the only people who made $2 million a year were football players and actors and actresses,
Hmm.
right? And crooked politicians. Right? So, and I'm just kidding about that, of course. And so I called him up, got his phone number. I can't remember how I got his phone number. Called him up and I said, I'd like to buy you for a day. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're making $2 million a year, and it looks like you got a really cool lifestyle. So he worked half days. So he worked from 1 to 5, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. every day. In the mornings, he lived in La Jolla, California. He'd go surfing every morning, every morning. And I said, I want to hire you for a day and show me how are you making $2 million working half days? And he said, yeah, that's not available.
Was this guy in mortgage?
He was not,
Okay.
but he
So
was in
this
sales, same
is his
principle.
house. Okay, gotcha.
Look, whether you're selling mortgage or pencils or car or life insurance, it's still where are you going to get your leads? What's your referral sources?
Hmm.
What do you farm out? How do you decide what to farm out? Like the salesmanship, how do you get people to say yes? And it's when it's good for them to say yes, right?
Hmm.
How do you get people to trust you that just met you? It's like no matter what you're selling, it's the same thing, right? We just happen to be selling money, right? But we're building a database and marketing to the database, whether I'm selling microphones, cell phones, cars, or houses or money, right?
Hmm.
So I said I'd like to buy you for a day, and he said that service is not available. And I just kind of chuckled. I said, "Hey, brother, one thing I've learned: everything has a price. Name your price. I got a blank check here. I've got your name filled in already. Tell me what to write in that spot." He said, "My man, I appreciate what you're saying, but let me tell you something. Everybody's got a price until you promise yourself you don't do that anymore. So there's no price on that. I don't do that anymore." I thought, well, that was lesson number one. Thank you very much. Right? Really, I thought, by God, that's a great message. Achieve a place in life where you don't have to sell out anymore.
Hmm.
I want that. And then he said, now, if you want to write a check for half a day, that's available. He said, well, and you can come all day. He says, I'll just be surfing, and you're welcome to come surfing with me. But I'll be surfing in the morning, and I walk back to my office at noon. I shower from noon to 1, and at 1 o'clock, I'm open for business. Perfect. So I hired him for half a day. I wrote a check, hired him for half a day, and I can't remember. I either wrote him a check. It was either 10,000 or 15 for that half day, and I can't remember what it was. So I'll just say it was 10. I think it was 15 though, but let's just say it was 10. Again, everybody thought I was crazy until I learned what I learned from him and started making really good money, exceeded his 2 million, and did it working 4 days a week. He taught me how to take Friday, Saturday, Sundays off. And so he helped me sharpen and I say an axe, that makes it sound like I'm cutting things down, right? But which, we're building people up, not cutting them down. But he taught me how to sharpen my axe. And that $10,000 was probably one of the, other than the ring on the lovely Mrs. White's finger, that's probably been the single best $10,000 I've ever written in my life. And now that I know what I know, I'd have mortgaged my house if I needed to have that information because that might have cost the mortgage, the down payment of a house, but it taught me how to buy the next 30, give up one to get 30. And so I think investing in yourself, there's no better investment, and investing because you're investing in your husband or your wife or your mate or your kids. And thinking that I have all the answers is a big, huge mistake. Because you look at whoever the president is, right? Whoever he or she is, they don't make the decisions. They
Mm-mm.
surround themselves with a cabinet, right? And the cabinet's making the decisions. Now, every now and then they veto everything, go off completely opposite. Some presidents more than others, but they invest in a cabinet or a group of very smart men and women that surround them that based on their experiences, they give him or her better advice of what to do. And the
Mhm.
smart ones follow that information. So anyway, well, that was an awful long story about going off on a tangent about your lumberjack, but I like that story.
I thought you would.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to carve out some time and talk to Miss Kristen to find out the advantages of sharpening your axe, Kristen, what's the best way for somebody to talk to you?
Probably just go to mmademo.com.
MMAdemo.com. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so
Yeah.
whatever you do as you're listening to this today, we may or may not be there. We'd like to think we're the right people for you.
Hmm.
Um, because we do have one distinction that I think is unique in the industry is myself and Jimmy actually make more money doing mortgages than we make teaching people how. So we make more money doing the activity than we
Hmm.
do teaching the activity. And I think that's a very unique thing in the industry. Like we're both very much involved. We both have large teams and we make more money doing that than, and we do well with the teaching, but we do make more with the mortgage end than we actually do the teaching end. And I think that's who you want on your team, working with you, like showing you how to do it. Somebody that's very relevant, because we just did my P&L this morning, and it was very robust. And we'd love to show you how we make all this happen. So mmademo.com. Thanks, Kristen.
Good to see you, Carl.